It was 10 a.m. sharp. Today was the spring board meeting, followed by the grand dedication ceremony for the new $50 million Bradford Hall. Through this parade of wealth, one figure moved slowly, almost invisibly. His name was Samuel. He was an elderly man, perhaps 75, though the lines on his face told a story of more than just years. He wore dusty work boots, a pair of faded denim trousers held up by suspenders, and a flannel jacket that had seen better decades. He carried a battered leather satchel, its strap worn thin. As he reached the main gate, a security guard in a crisp black uniform stepped directly into his path, holding up a hand. "Whoa, hold on there, old-timer," the guard said, his voice a mixture of boredom and suspicion. "This entrance is for the board meeting. Deliveries are around back, and if you're lost, the bus stop is down the street." Samuel stopped and offered a gentle, patient smile. "Good morning, son. I'm not lost, and I don't have a delivery. I'm here to see Dean Thompson." The guard chuckled, a short, sharp sound. He glanced at his partner in the guard booth, who smirked and shook his head. "To see the dean? Buddy, the dean is a very important man. He doesn't just see people. Do you have an appointment?" "A pass." "No, I don't have an appointment," Samuel replied calmly, his voice soft. "But it's a personal matter. It's about the Bradford Hall dedication. It's important." The guard's eyes narrowed. He looked Samuel up and down. The old man's clothes were clean, but worn. He didn't look homeless, but he certainly didn't look like a Crestwood donor. "Bradford Hall?" The guard scoffed. "Look, maybe you were on the construction crew and you're missing a paycheck. I don't know. But you can't come in here. Not today. This is a high-security event." Samuel's smile didn't waver. "I understand, but I am not here for money. I am here to talk about the university's charter. Please, just tell him Samuel is here. He will understand." The guard sighed, annoyed. This was wasting his time. The last thing he needed was the dean seeing this vagrant arguing at the gate. "Fine," the guard snapped, "more to get rid of him than to help. Go on up to the main hall. Talk to the receptionist. But when they throw you out, don't say I didn't warn you." Samuel nodded. "Thank you for your kindness, son." He walked past the guard and up the imposing marble steps. He entered the lobby, a cavernous space with ceilings 3 stories high. Sunlight streamed through massive arched windows, illuminating the oil paintings of the university's founders, stern-faced men in dark suits. The air smelled of floor wax and old, expensive wood. At the far end of the lobby, behind a massive mahogany desk, sat Brenda. Brenda was the dean's executive administrator, a woman in her 40s whose perfectly styled hair, sharp designer suit, and icy expression were all part of her uniform. She was the gatekeeper. Samuel approached the desk slowly. Brenda was typing furiously, her eyes glued to her screen, pointedly ignoring him. He waited patiently for a full minute before clearing his throat. "Excuse me, ma'am." Brenda's typing stopped. She looked up, and her eyes, as sharp as glass, swept over him. Her lip curled in a tiny, almost imperceptible sneer. "Yes?" Her voice was cold. "Can I help you?" "Good morning," Samuel said. "I'm here to see Dean Thompson." "My name is Samuel." Brenda stared at him. She thought to herself, is this a joke? First, the catering is late, and now this. He probably wandered in from the street. "The dean," she said, drawing the word out, "is in a series of highly important meetings. He is preparing for the Board of Trustees. He certainly doesn't have any appointments with Samuel." "No, I don't have an appointment," Samuel repeated, his patience unwavering. "But I told the guard, it's about the Bradford Hall dedication. It's a personal matter, and it's quite urgent." This gave Brenda pause. She assumed he must be a disgruntled worker, or, more likely, a local crank who had a complaint about the construction. She let out a long, theatrical sigh. "Sir, any complaints about construction noise or whatever it is must be filed with the city. The dean does not handle such trivialities." "It is not a triviality, ma'am," Samuel said, his voice still soft, but with a new, firm edge. "It concerns the university's founding charter. I must speak with him before the 2 p.m. ceremony." Brenda had had enough. "Fine," she snapped. "Sit over there." In the corner, she pointed to a single, hard-backed chair in a dark alcove, far away from the plush seating reserved for donors. "If he has a free moment, I will let him know you are here. But I am making no promises." "Thank you," Samuel said. He nodded politely and walked to the corner. He sat down, placed his worn satchel on the floor beside him, and folded his hands on his lap. And he waited. The lobby bustled with life. Men and women in expensive suits walked by, their voices echoing in the grand hall. They spoke of stocks, of summer homes in the Hamptons, of multi-million-dollar donations. Many of them glanced at Samuel. Their stares were quick and dismissive. "My goodness," one woman whispered to her husband. "Has security taken the day off? He's tracking dust on the marble. He's ruining the whole ambiance," the husband muttered back. "What is this, a public shelter?" Samuel heard them. He heard everything. He sat perfectly still, looking up at the largest oil painting in the hall, a portrait of the university's founder, Elias Bradford. Samuel's eyes held a deep, quiet sadness. He looked at the painting of his father and sighed. At the other end of the long desk, away from Brenda's important station, sat a young woman named Maria. She was a work-study student, sorting mail. She had watched the entire exchange. She saw the guard's mockery, Brenda's contempt, and the whispers from the donors. She looked at the old man, sitting so patiently, and her heart ached. "He just looks like someone's grandpa," she thought. "How can they be so cruel?" She was worried about Brenda, who was notoriously strict. But she couldn't just sit there. She quietly went to the water cooler, poured a paper cup of water, and walked over to the alcove. "Sir?" she said, her voice a small whisper. "Excuse me, sir? Would you like some water? You've been waiting a long time." Samuel looked up, and his tired eyes brightened. He gave her a warm, genuine smile. "Why, thank you, child. That is the kindest thing that has happened to me all morning." "Thank you. You're welcome," she said, blushing. "What are you studying here?" Samuel asked, taking a small sip. "Oh, I'm studying philosophy, sir. But it's really expensive. I'm just trying to get through it." Samuel's smile widened. "Philosophy. A noble pursuit. Don't you ever let the cost of a thing stop you from seeking its value. Wisdom is worth more than all the marble in this building." Maria smiled. "Thank you, sir." "Maria." Brenda's sharp voice cut across the lobby. "Are you finished with that mail? Stop bothering the guests." Maria jumped, her face red with embarrassment. "Yes, ma'am." "Sorry, ma'am." She hurried back to her desk, but not before Samuel gave her a grateful nod. Another hour passed. The clock on the wall chimed 11 a.m., then 11:30 a.m. Samuel did not move. He just sat, the picture of perfect patience. Suddenly, the grand doors to the dean's office suite swung open. Dean Thompson emerged, a man in his late 50s, with perfectly coiffed silver hair, a crisp $3,000 suit, and an air of complete, unshakable arrogance. He was talking loudly into his phone. "Yes, Senator, absolutely," he boomed. "The new hall is a triumph of modern architecture. We're expecting another $20 million in donations by the end of the fiscal year. It's all about the brand, Senator. The Crestwood brand." He snapped his phone shut and began walking across the lobby. He was heading for the elevators when he spotted Samuel. He stopped dead. His face, which had been bright with self-satisfaction, darkened into a furious scowl. He marched straight to Brenda's desk. "Brenda," he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "What is that?" He jerked his head toward Samuel. Brenda's face went pale. "Sir, he's waiting to see you," he insisted. "He said it's about the Bradford Hall dedication." "I told him you were busy. Are you serious?" the dean whispered, his voice shaking with rage. "You let this hobo sit in my lobby. The board of trustees is arriving in 30 minutes. We have a reception. This is a terrible look. Get rid of him, now." "Yes, sir," Brenda said, standing up. But Samuel had seen the exchange. He stood up slowly, picking up his satchel, and walked toward them. "Mr. Thompson," Samuel said, his voice polite. "I just need a moment of your time. My name is Samuel. It's about the university charter. It's urgent." Dean Thompson turned to face him, his eyes filled with disbelief and disgust. "Sir," the dean said, his voice dripping with false patience. "I don't know who you are, or what you think you're doing, but this is a private institution. We are not a charity. We are not a homeless shelter. I am going to have to ask you to leave. Immediately." "I am not here for charity, Dean," Samuel said, his voice hardening just a fraction. "I am here for honesty. And for the truth." He reached into his old satchel and pulled out a battered, leather-bound envelope, tied with a string. He held it out. "This is my old faculty card," he said. "And this is a letter. I am asking you, as the head of this university, to read it. Please. Read it before the 2 p.m. dedication." Dean Thompson stared at the old envelope as if it were a piece of garbage. He let out a short, cold laugh. "A letter? You think I have time for letters from you?" He snatched the envelope from Samuel's hand. He didn't even look at it. He tossed it dismissively onto Brenda's desk. "Brenda," the dean commanded, "call campus security. Have this man escorted off the property. If he resists, have him arrested for trespassing. I have real work to do." The dean turned his back on Samuel and adjusted his cuffs. Samuel stood there for a long moment. The entire lobby had gone silent. He looked at the dean's back, then at the envelope on the desk. "A man who cannot see the roots will be toppled by the first wind," Samuel said, his voice clear and strong. "You should have read the letter, son." He turned, and with the same slow, deliberate pace, he walked out of the lobby and down the marble steps, disappearing into the bright sunlight. Dean Thompson scoffed, straightened his tie, and marched to the elevator. Brenda, flustered, immediately picked up the phone to call security. At her desk, Maria was shaking. She was horrified by the cruelty she had just witnessed. "Unbelievable," Brenda muttered, hanging up the phone. "The nerve of some people. Wasting our time." She picked up the old leather envelope to throw it in the trash bin. "Wait!" Maria suddenly cried out. Brenda stopped, annoyed. "What is it now, Maria? Please." "Brenda, please don't throw it away," Maria said, rushing over. It might be important. Maybe I should just file it in Lost and Found?" Brenda rolled her eyes. "Fine. Whatever. Just get it off my desk. It's probably covered in who knows what." She handed the envelope to Maria and returned to her computer. Maria took the envelope back to her small desk. Her hands were trembling. It felt heavy. She untied the old string. Inside, there were 2 items. The first was an old, laminated ID card. It was a Crestwood University faculty card, dated 1960. The photo showed a much younger, black-and-white version of the man who had just left. The name read, Samuel Bradford, Professor of Philosophy, 1960 to 19... She read, her eyes growing wider with every word. Professor Samuel Bradford, son of university founder Elias Bradford, famously resigned his tenured post in 1975 to live a life of seclusion, following a dispute with the board over the university's rising tuition. What few know is that Professor Bradford, who inherited the entire family fortune, has been the university's single largest, quote, anonymous benefactor for the past 40 years. His endowments, funneled through a private trust, have financed over 70% of this university's growth, including the medical school, the law library, and the new Bradford Hall itself. Maria let out a small, strangled gasp. She put her hand over her mouth. She looked at the old photo, then back at the article. He's the one," she whispered. "He's the owner. He's the man they're dedicating the building to." She then saw the second item in the envelope. It was a handwritten letter on thick, heavy stationery. She unfolded it. "To the sitting dean, I founded this university with my father, not to build monuments to our name, but to build minds. You are dedicating a hall of marble to a man you have never met, while turning away the very philosophy he stood for. Your actions today will determine the future of this institution. I will be at the dedication at..." Maria shot out of her chair. She grabbed the article and the letter. "Brenda, I have to see the dean. It's an emergency." "Maria, are you insane? He's in the board meeting. I don't care. He has to see this. Now." Maria didn't wait. She ran past Brenda, past the security guard, and burst through the doors of the conference room. "Sir," she yelled. Dean Thompson, who was in the middle of a presentation, turned, his face purple with rage. "Maria, what is the meaning of this?" "Sir," she said, panting, tears streaming down her face. "That man, the old man you threw out, sir, that was Samuel Bradford." She slammed the article and the letter down on the conference table. The room went silent. The trustees stared. Dean Thompson looked at Maria, then at the papers. He snatched the article. He read the headline. He looked at the old photo. He remembered the old man's patient eyes. His entire body went cold. He picked up the letter. He read the final, chilling lines. He collapsed into his chair, sweat pouring down his face. "Oh, no," he whispered. Samuel Bradford walked in. He was still in the same simple flannel jacket and dusty boots. But this time, he was not alone. He was flanked by 2 people in sharp, dark suits, and the elderly, respected head of the board of trustees. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Samuel walked slowly, deliberately, down the center aisle. His boots clicked on the marble floor. Dean Thompson stopped talking, his mouth hanging open. Samuel walked right up to the stage and stood in front of the podium, looking up at the terrified dean. "Stop," Samuel said. His voice was no longer soft. It was filled with a quiet, powerful authority that needed no microphone. "Stop this ceremony. Mr. Bradford." "Sir," the dean stammered, fumbling for words. I can explain. It was a terrible misunderstanding." "I didn't know." "There was no misunderstanding, Mr. Thompson," Samuel said, his voice cutting through the air. "You were very clear. You showed me exactly who you are. A man who values a suit more than a soul. A man who sees a building, but not the foundation it stands on. "You were crying earlier," Samuel said, his warm smile returning. I was just so angry at them," she whispered. "Do not be angry," Samuel said. "You were the only person in this entire building who saw a person, and not a set of clothes. You saw a human being who needed water. That, my dear, is the true meaning of philosophy. He put a hand on her shoulder. The Bradford Endowment will be funding your full scholarship and your PhD. We need people with hearts like yours running this place one day. Maria cried again, but this time, they were tears of joy. Samuel looked up at his father's portrait, and, for the first time that day, he truly smiled. Story ends. Friends, if you liked this story, please like it, share it with as many people as possible, and yes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can keep getting such interesting and powerful stories.